So you're looking for a Qualtrics alternative, but I suspect the real problem is not Qualtrics. Qualtrics is usually doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is that we have started asking survey software to perform a small miracle, to tell us not only what happened, but why it happened, and those are not the same job. A survey is rather like a thermometer, extremely useful if you want to know the temperature, not very useful if you want to know whether the patient has flu, food poisoning, or is simply standing next to a radiator. That is the trap with customer data. A score falls, NPS drops, satisfaction declines. Everyone gathers around the dashboard and pretends the number is the explanation. It isn't. It's the smoke alarm. And if the question keeping you up is what is actually causing this, then the best Qualtrics alternative is not really another survey tool. It is user intuition. Not because Qualtrics is bad, quite the opposite, but there is a class of problem where counting answers is not enough. You need to interrogate them. To be fair, Qualtrics earned its position. If you need enterprise survey infrastructure, large-scale tracking, NPS across thousands of customers, benchmarking, norms, governance, dashboards, integrations, Qualtrics is a serious system of record. If your job is to measure the tide, keep the tide gauge. This is not an argument for throwing away surveys. That would be like throwing away your speedometer because it does not tell you why the engine is making a noise. The point is simpler. There are some questions a survey is structurally incapable of answering, however expensive the platform becomes. And the most important one is usually why. The dangerous thing about a survey is that it gives you the feeling of understanding. A customer writes, support was slow. The dashboard neatly categorizes it. Support issue, negative sentiment, detractor. Maybe it even produces a tidy little theme, response time. And everyone nods, because now the problem has a label. But labels are not explanations. Support was slow could mean the first reply took too long. It could mean the customer did not know who owned the issue. It could mean they had quietly concluded they were too small a customer to matter. Those are wildly different problems. One is an operations problem, one is a communication problem, one is an account management problem. A survey usually stops at the first noun it can recognize. A good researcher does the opposite. They distrust the first answer and ask what sits underneath it. That is the job user intuition is built for. Instead of collecting a response and moving on, it runs a real AI-moderated interview, around 30 minutes, voice or video. It follows up 5 to 7 times on a single answer, the way a sharp researcher would. Not, please elaborate, which is what software says when it has run out of ideas, but what made that feel slow? What did you expect to happen? Why did that matter? That is where the useful answer tends to live, not in the first sentence, but a floor or two below it. And running an actual interview fixes a second problem surveys increasingly struggle with: trust. Panels now leak bots, professional respondents, and AI-written answers. User intuition works from a vetted panel it tracks over time, so a respondent's identity stays consistent. Nobody is a carpenter 1 month and an engineer the next. Every interview is screened for AI, the transcript is analysed, and on video a real identifiable person is confirmed present and engaged. And depth is its own fraud filter. It is easy to fake a multiple choice answer, and very hard to fake 5 layers of coherent follow-up. You are billed only for interviews that pass the quality bar, so bad sessions never reach your report or your invoice. Studies start at $150, roughly $25 per interview on Pro. 3 free to start, no card. Results in about a day from a 4 million person panel across 50 languages. The support example. Here is the difference in practice. Your NPS survey says a customer gave you a 6 and wrote, support was slow. The normal system says, support response time issue. User intuition keeps going. What felt slow? I couldn't tell if anyone was actually working on it. Why did that matter? My boss kept asking me for updates and I had nothing to say. What did that make you think? That maybe we'd chosen the wrong vendor? And what was the worst part of that? Honestly, it made us feel like we were too small an account to matter. Now, notice what happened. You did not discover a support ticket problem. You discovered a status anxiety problem. A customer was not merely waiting, they were losing face inside their own company. No checkbox captures that, because no human being opens a survey and chooses, I am beginning to suspect my vendor does not care whether I succeed. The truth was there, it was just not available at the altitude of a survey. User intuition is not the only Qualtrics alternative. SurveySparrow is good for conversational surveys, Formbricks if you want open source flexibility, Medallia for enterprise CX, Typeform for design forward forms, Alchemer for mid-market research, Zonka Feedback for closed-loop CX programs. Each owns a legitimate job. But if what you want is the reasoning behind the number and confidence that a real human gave it to you, user intuition is the alternative that changes the category. There is one more underrated benefit. A survey is usually an event. You run it, you read it, you present it. Then 6 months later, when the business has a slightly different question, you run another one. This is mad if you think about it. Organizations keep paying to rediscover nearby truths because their research does not accumulate. User intuition puts every interview into a customer intelligence hub you can query later. So the churn study from March is still useful when you are debating pricing in October. The onboarding interviews still matter when product is arguing about activation. The customer's words do not vanish into a deck. The research starts to behave less like a report and more like institutional memory. So here is the honest test. Take one number your team keeps arguing about, the NPS drop, the churn spike, the feedback nobody agrees how to read. Run 3 interviews on user intuition. Free, no card. Then ask yourself one question. Did we learn something the dashboard could never have told us? If yes, you don't need to replace Qualtrics. You need to stop asking Qualtrics to do the job of a researcher. Keep the measurement system, add the diagnosis. Run your first 3 interviews at userintuition.ai.